In today's video on Elden Ring Nightreign, we are going to be ranking the Night Lords from worst to best. Before we get too deep into it, I do want to say that I think Elden Ring Nightreign's bosses were a huge success on what they attempted to do, and I enjoy almost all of them thoroughly. From Software has never really disappointed us with their boss design, and nothing has changed here. So just remember that all of the bosses besides our very first one we're going to talk about, chances are I enjoy that boss a lot. So if your favorite boss is near the bottom, just remember, it's pretty good in my book. Alright, starting with the worst boss in Elden Ring Nightreign. So just as everyone has predicted, Maris is at the very bottom of this list. He's without a doubt the simplest and the easiest Night Lord in the game. Difficulty does not always mean good in my opinion, but he doesn't really do much of anything besides float around, and he kind of reminds me of a worse version of the Elden Beast. As you can see in this footage here, I'm level 10, so me and my team had a pretty bad run. And guess what? None of us died in this boss fight because he doesn't really do anything, as I said earlier. He can do a few interesting things if I'm being honest, like summon some sleeper bubbles or even some tentacles that you have to deal with, but none of these are that engaging in my opinion. He's also extremely telegraphed, so Nightfarers that rely on range can easily see where he's going and just avoid him and shoot him with their ranged abilities. I wish I could find a few things to at least compliment this guy, but there's really nothing I see of value here. The reward for getting to day 3 doesn't have to be a super huge and large and difficult boss, but it has to be something, and I really don't think Maris has it. Maybe his upgraded version will be something super spectacular and cool, and that's the joke From Software is going for. They made something so uninteresting and made the upgraded version the real fight. I guess he does look kind of interesting, but I think we can all agree he is the weakest fight in Elden Ring Nightreign. So again, even though Adele is technically a little bit low on this list, I do want to clarify that I still think it's a great boss, which therefore means I think that Nightreign only has one boss that's truly kinda bad. It's quite impressive when I do say that, and of course the game will only be better when we have all of the upgraded bosses to play. Adele is a really big and scary dragon. He's one of the more menacing From Software dragons, mainly because he's so vicious and does not contain dragon attacks that are within the norm and expected. I find his overall concept way more interesting than fighting him, kind of like the Gaping Dragon in Dark Souls 1, or now even in Elden Ring. It's a dragon that doesn't follow the traditional dragon gameplay formula. I think his first phase is a little bit boring, but his second phase makes him go crazy. I really like the purple that surrounds him and all of the effects that he has in his second phase. Even though I don't have much to say about him, he's unpredictable, he's fast, and he looks really cool in his second phase. Overall, a really good boss. And topping off our bottom 3 is Noster. He's one of the more entertaining fights in the game if you have ranged carries to deal with the Moth in the first half, while us melee guys deal with the Scorpion on the side. It's a pretty unique way to separate the team, and then make a traditional fight at his mid-phase transition. I do enjoy the fight slightly more when I am not playing a melee carry, since the Scorpion has pretty telegraphed moves that can be easy to dodge, unless you're bad like me. Like I said earlier, I'd say that this boss is the most replayable just because you're going to be focusing on the Moth when you're a ranged carry and the Scorpion is a melee person. So if I judge him that way, he's one of the better bosses in terms of replayability, but in terms of the moveset, I think I have bosses that I enjoy more. That's still not to suggest that his mid-phase transition doesn't do a lot of great things. There's plenty of spells to look out for that's coming from the Moth, and of course the melee attacks from the Scorpion. It's a perfect combo that makes you focus on every aspect of the game. Where are the ranged spells coming from, and what do I have to avoid in front of my face? I'm really excited to see how his upgraded version will be. So far, we have not had a disappointing upgraded boss, so I have high hopes. The cool name, which is Gladius, and his fight is one of my favorite fights in Elden Ring Nightreign. Although I cannot lie to you, I might enjoy him so much because of the fact that I've had the most amount of experience fighting this guy, since we were all learning the game at launch and we were stuck on him for a few tries. I remember when Nightreign was revealed, this was the first boss that I remember seeing at least, and as soon as I saw him I said, yeah, this game is going to be for me. I loved how he looked, and I loved the concept of Nightreign. He would be a bit higher if I enjoyed the 3 separate versions of him just a little bit more that he does around the halfway mark. I don't think it's bad because it's terribly unbalanced, rather, it's a bit boring since the dogs are a nerfed version of the main Gladius. Hopefully his upgraded version makes that mid-phase transition a little bit more interesting, and he might even be higher when that happens. His main attacks really highlight how From Software did a great job at making this boss fight multiple people at once. How he whips his chain around with his jaw is a really cool thing to see, and when I first got here and saw that, I got a really good feel for Nightreign and how this was a From Software game that's radically different in the boss design. I'm the type of player that enjoys playing these games solo, but Elden Ring Nightreign is the outlier since it's just a lot more fun with people, and Gladius does a great job at highlighting that. I don't really know what From Software can do to make his mid-phase transition more interesting to me, so I have to to assume that it's just a me thing that isn't a fan of the 3 dogs, but I also have to say that they don't really take away from the fight either. So we finally got to Caliggo, and he's definitely one of From Software's better dragons by all metrics. He does have the traditional dragon moveset that makes him more interesting to me, while also being an interesting fight. I'll save the best part of his fight for last, but what he does interesting is creating frost terrain throughout the arena that you are always having to avoid. Something like this just makes him a lot more interesting to me, since he is not a fire-based dragon like most of From Software's past dragons. Even if his mist really does just act like a fire, it's still a welcome change that I do enjoy. Another thing that people simply don't mention with Caliggo is that since Nightreign has more mobility options than From Software's other games, things such as Wilder's Hook, Iron Eye's Dash, or even the sprint option that every character has, means this boss can feel more like a dragon without being entirely annoying. Other dragon bosses From Software created in the past aren't always airborne because most melee builds simply couldn't deal with that. From Software has always creatively tried to dodge this issue, with Calamite's wing being damaged, giving Midir an enclosed space since you damaged him before his main fight, and I think Bale has a damaged wing if I'm remembering correctly. But since we have more ranged options and more mobility in Elden Ring Nightreign, the dragon can feel like what he is, a big dragon that a Nightfarer probably shouldn't be fighting, but to hell with it, let's do it. He's the boss that they chose to take down, and they're going to do their best to do that. I have to say, for how much I'm praising this guy, it's impressive that we have 3 more bosses to go through. I don't really know where I would put this guy on a dragon tier list, but he's without a doubt up there with some of From Software's better work. And I did tell you that I would save the best part of his fight for last, and well, it's the music. What? I think it's really good. Fine, if you don't like that, we'll move on to our next boss. And now into our top 3 we have Fulgore. I can't recall too many From Software bosses that resemble or look similar to Fulgore. Centaur enemies are definitely not common in the Miyazaki-led Souls games, and right now I'm struggling to even think of something that resembles this guy. The closest enemy that I can think of would be the Man-Eaters in Demon Souls, but that's kind of a stretch in my opinion. I would definitely say this is the boss I struggle with the most in Nightreign, and I couldn't exactly tell you why. There's something with how he fights that makes it so me and my teammates always lose when we get around to him. I ended up beating him last, so that means I did every other Nightfarer boss before I actually beat this guy, and I hear people mention how they were beating the enhanced version first try. Well, it took me about 3 or 4 attempts just to get there, and beating him took another 4 or 5 attempts. His enhanced fight is better than the Gaping Jaw in my opinion, and he has a freaking nuke, a deadly combo chain with his twin blades, and a few other things that I think are really well done. It's a really good fight, honestly, and I'm happy that From Software kept enhancing these bosses. And while we are here, I may as well mention how great of an idea it was for From Software to drip feed the upgraded bosses so players didn't burn themselves out of Elden Ring Nightreign's content within a week. Each time I hop back on this game for the enhanced bosses, I end up doing a few things on the side that aren't really related to the enhanced bosses at all. I think From Software really knew what they were doing with Elden Ring Nightreign, and I really do hope we see more. For this boss though, I think he's really good, and maybe I like him so much because I struggled with him the most. And for the penultimate boss, we have the Night Lord. What? The Night Lord isn't the #1 boss, but he's so cool. He's so epic. He's a cool looking knight. Well, okay, he's number 2, so let's just keep going on, because Libra is clearly the best boss in the game. Even though this guy is not number 1, I had to debate in my mind which one I liked more, Libra or the Night Lord. And I think I like the Night Lord slightly less, but I think they're both really great. To be fair, he does have style in every single way, which is a massive benefit for his boss fight. I have seen a few clips of 2 things. 1, people see the bell-bearing hunter and they nope out. And 2, people that were really disappointed with this boss because they thought the first phase was the entire boss. And From Software was pulling in Demon Souls, and it was just going to be a pushover boss, but little did they know, this guy was just getting powered up. Before we talk about his moveset, let's talk about his aesthetic. The Night Lord might be the coolest looking knight From Software has ever designed. I think the Crucible Knights, Artorias, and Gale are definitely up there, but I might have to give it to this guy. Style is what this guy does well. His moves are calculated with finesse. His boss arena is extremely atmospheric with a great color to complement him. And he also creates some sort of nuke by altering how the skybox looks. This guy is freaking insane. I don't really know how he does it, but maybe that's what makes it so cool. Something else that I think he does really well is how every Nightfarer has a great way to deal with all of his moves, and there probably isn't a best Nightfarer to use against him. I have seen some of our wannabe Sekiro players parry everything this guy does in a very impressive way. He's fast, he's aggressive with an epic looking sword. The only thing I wish I can do with this guy is fight him solo without having to do day 1 and 2, since I enjoy him and Libra so much. But now, let's talk about Libra. So now, here we are at the number 1 spot, and we have Libra here. I know most people probably would not have Libra this high on our list, however, I think he adds a lot of unseen ideas to the boss design and Souls. A goat-like creature that summons madness spells isn't something that is very common in From Software games. He has one of the more unique character models, ideas, and even perks he can give you before the fight starts. I don't know which ones are best, and my teammates always attack him before we start the fight, so maybe solo runs is something I should try with this guy. I also struggle with him more than I'm happy to admit because of the madness spells he will conjure as you are attacking him. Since I mainly do strength characters, they usually have long animations and I will get hit mid-animation. I also really like the circles he summons mid-fight that you have to jump through, and if you didn't know what to do when you were first fighting the boss, he becomes empowered, and I think he even starts pouncing on one person for the rest of the fight. It's honestly pretty funny when it happens. So yeah, I think he's pretty good. He's frantic, he's fast-paced, he's funny looking, and I really like the fight. But I guess I like most of Elden Ring Nightraign's bosses. I knew that when this game was revealed I wasn't too worried about it because I trust From Software's boss design at the bare minimum, and the fact that they were designing the bosses around 3 players just made a brand new experience so compelling to me. But I have better news for you. The bosses in this game aren't the best part about it, it's the Nightfarers. And maybe in one of my next videos I'll rank the Nightfarers on how fun I think they are. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you.